So I wanted to teach you about CMAs today, and we're all from different areas, and I love it because usually when I teach this, it is just to the people down here in Durango and Mancos and Silverton, and we're all on something called Paragon, but it doesn't matter. I want to tell you just a general way that I have put my CMAs together over the years. And what this class isn't is I teach a class on how to use or put it this way, I teach a class on how to value a home, and that's not what this is. This is just putting the CMA together. Okay, so I will be teaching that class later this year. I also, if you have questions about like using software, that's not this class either. It's just like how to put a CMA presentation together. So this is, it's not that big of a class. So I think the last time I took this was pretty detailed into Paragon, which is the MLS system down here. And it was still about 30 minutes. So there's going to be tons of time for you to ask questions if you have questions, but otherwise it'll be kind of quick and dirty, and I'll try to make it as useful for you all as possible. So I sold real estate. To give you a little background, I sold real estate for about, I think it was 13 years before I was a manager. And even when my first years as a manager, it was with a different company. And then I came back to Coldwell, but those first few years as a manager, I was still selling. And during that time, I have put together a ton of CMAs. And also, I always like to tell people I was never like the top agent. I was always, you know, like out of 50, I'd be like number 8 or number 9. So I wasn't like, oh, you should always do it my way because I always get the listing. I just did it a certain way, and I felt that it is of value to you. So when you're doing a CMA, the thing to not do is to make it perfect with how it looks. Okay. And hold on, we got a note here. To make it perfect with how it looks, like having it really super fancy. I don't feel like if you have a great listing presentation that is ready to go, and you have a good seller's packet that's ready to go, the CMA to me is not about, I want to pay a lot of money to have this great looking report. It's about the data that you have and the advice that you're giving the seller and how you're talking to them about the presentation that you put together. So if you can throw out of your mind, like, oh, not only do I have to spend all this time trying to price the property, right, I do want to also be able to just explain it very well. So don't get lost in the details in the way of how it looks. It's more about when I'm talking to a customer, this is the way that I want it to look. So thank you, Steve. I'll see you later.
Thank you, Heather.
So okay, so that was the first thing I wanted to talk to you about. And then before I start sharing screens or any of that, I'm going to be showing you how I do things on my Paragon system, but it doesn't matter what software that you end up using. I've always used the MLS software. I've seen different programs that you can use for doing CMAs, and I know there's like RPR out there. There's other programs with, we have a new one in our area where you can pull pricing and things like that. They look great, and there's certain pages from those reports I would use, but I want something that I can manipulate and make exactly the way I want to look. And Paragon, for us, it's free and it's good enough. So whatever Flex, whatever you're on, it's probably fine. Just use the free system that's within it and learn how to use that. So what I do when I'm putting together, now I will share my screen. So let me get it in front of me. Just pause for a second. And look for Paragon. There we go. Okay. So when I'm doing a property search, so I'm going to give you the one I'm doing is on the house that I actually own. And it doesn't matter that your MLS looks a lot different than mine. I just want to kind of show you around how I'm doing it. I think of the way that I'm doing a CMA as kind of putting I was in science, right? Before I got into real estate. That's what I went to school for. And I kind of think about it as the way I did a research paper. So you go out there and you're going to collect all your data, right? So you're collecting all of it from different sources, and then you're putting it all together and you're deciding, okay, this is kind of the outline, and this is what I think that I would price the house at, or you kind of like, you have thoughts already, you're doing your research. I'm looking at the solds first. And then I'm going on to the active houses. And then I'm taking all of this data and kind of narrowing it down into what I think I should be sharing with a seller. And then I put it all into the presentation. And then I start arranging it of the way I want it to look, okay? So when I'm doing that, I'm going to show you, you can on most MLS softwares, what I'm assuming you can do is you go to the CMA and you can go and there's something here that I think if you're at the first page, comparables, you can go and add your comparables, but I find that really frustrating. I think the best way to do it is just look through the MLS, just like you're doing in a regular CMA or in a regular house search, right? So you're looking at, if you're looking at solds first, I'm pulling up solds. I'm just telling you the house that I'm doing this one on is, it's in town. So you want to do it on other in-town properties. And all of our areas are very different. If you're at a resort, there might be, this subdivision, you want to keep it in this subdivision and maybe add these two subdivisions. So this class is less about that. It's just more about like gathering the data and what it looks like. So I picked my house because it's an in-town property. It's stick built and it's sort of easy to kind of figure out as a simple MLS search. And so let's see. So type, you obviously don't want to be comparing stick built to in our MLS. This is how it looks. So stick built to townhomes and condos. You want to stick to the same kind. If I'm looking through solds, we're going to go back. I do want the house to appraise for what I'm telling them their house is worth. Because I want the appraisal would come in somewhere around there. I know we're in a really nutty market and I didn't actively sell during this market, but let's say we're going to do it the way an appraiser would, which would be, we're going to do, hold on, just one sec. All of a sudden I started thinking, did I push record? Hold on. Look at me. There we go. Okay. So the way I'm going to do it is share screen again. There we go. Okay, you can see it on here. So I'm going to go back 6 months. So April 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pick the same day. So we are the 21st. And we're going back in town, all sold, stick built, in town. How can there be none? Oh gosh. Of course, we're going to have this hard market. It's going to be really hard for me to do my comps. But typically you're going to go back. Okay, let me 1022. Oh, it's because I have the wrong year. That doesn't help. That would be it. Okay, so we're going back to 6 months and I'm picking the same area. So for me, it's in town Durango. This is all not like something I'm trying to teach you how to do an MLS search, but you also want to worry about the square footage. So in an appraisal, they can generally go, 15% above the square footage of the subject property or 15% below. So you pull out a calculator and you're like, okay, my house is 1950. So about 15% below is going to be 1657 square feet. So let's do 1600. And then I'm going to go up on the other side. Somewhere about 2250. Okay, so you're going to try to get it to where an appraisal would do it. It would be great if you start out with somewhere like, 24 isn't a bad number, but you want to maybe limit it a little bit to more than that. So bedrooms and baths, you want to limit it to exactly what the subject property is that you're doing the search on, probably somewhere around there. You don't want 1 bedrooms compared to 4 bedrooms. So let me just pick 3 bedrooms and up. So we have at least, we're still at 24. So I'm going to go through and look at those homes. So that's the kind of search that you're looking for. And this is the part of the CMA I might spend an hour looking at it, especially when you're a new agent. When you have been in real estate a long time, you have probably looked at most of the properties that you're using for your CMA. But when you're a newer agent, you're really going to have to do some digging to be like, okay, is this one going to be comparable to the one that I want to compare it to? So I'm actually going through all of these. And here's the thing. If I look at this house and I say, oh my God, this one it looks like it's about, let's just say it looked like it was about to fall down. And I'm going through the photos like, oh God, this is super not like the house that I am comparing it to. You can skip it, but I say that if it's about the same size and in the same area, I might use it in my CMA, not as a direct comparison, but something that you were using as sort of an FYI for the seller that's saying, well, look, I put this one in here so you can tell what houses are going for when they haven't had the sort of upgrades that you've used in your home. My home that I'm comparing it to is a 1950s home. So one built in 1970, maybe not so bad, right? But you're going to go through this and go, this property, way too big a backyard. I can't possibly compare it. Or it was just built last year, so I can't compare it. So there's certain properties that I'm going to include in a CMA that might be nothing like the house. Like, let's say, this is an example I've used before. I have a 1950s home and it's in town, and I want to compare it to, or I have a comp that's in a brand new subdivision and it's in town, right? Same bedrooms and baths, brand new subdivision. So why would you use that in a CMA? Because it has nothing to do with the subject property. The reason I would use it is because I, in my CMA, am not saying this is the exact price you want on your home, the price per square foot or anything. I'm bracketing it, right? So I have houses that are not as nice as the subject property. I have houses that are way nicer than the subject property to kind of give them a range. So when I'm doing this search on my system, let's say I know the house is probably going to be priced at $600,000. I'm not going to include $300,000 homes, but I might include one for $450,000 or so. If I'm trying to say, look, this was your house before it was fixed up, and then I might include one for $700,000, so that as I'm talking to that customer, I can show them the numbers, not just tell them about the numbers. So that's kind of the way that I would go about it. And then once you get it down, sorry, I don't know what my screen is doing. Hold on. Once you get it down to the right number, so let's say it's like 4 or 5 or 6, probably 3 is fine. You don't really want to go beneath that. Then you're plugging them into the CMA to put it together. Does that all make sense? So you're doing it all with the solds, and then you're doing it all again with the actives. But I always start out with the solds because solds are really what you know what it's going to sell for. In our market, you could have an active listing that ends up coming down in price, or you could have an active listing that ends up selling for a lot more than what it's under contract for. Like the house in town that went active yesterday, our office had it, and it is a fixer-upper in the same neighborhood that I'm showing you. And I think they had 40 showings in the first day. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't even imagine. Are either of you in resort markets, like just in the resort, or do you have town around you?
No resort.
No resort. Okay. Okay. Good to know. Because this was a little bit different when I was in this. Okay. So don't worry. Hold on. I got a lot of notes and I want to make sense. So once you have it, the search, you're going to do the same thing in sold that you're doing in active. And then once you plug them all into the CMA, you just walk through whatever steps your CMA wizard is going to have. For us, it's creating a subject property, which you can pull from the MLS if it already was a listing at one time, or you can create your own subject property. You're going to give it a name, you can put the client in, get the comparables in, you're sort of putting these together, right? And then it comes to this thing called adjustments. And here's what I learned about adjustments. I am a very detail-oriented person. So you got to like pull me away from these things because I want to make it all perfect, right? But adjustments are where you go and you get your property. Let me see if I can get it here. Next. Of course, watch it. Like it's going to freeze on me. I just know it. See if I can get to the adjustments. The adjustments are going to be a place where you're looking at all the properties. Oh, Lord. Oh, here we go. Okay. So this is what most CMA wizards are going to show you. There's a place that you can say, okay, I picked these 8 homes and here's my subject property. And here's the one I'm comparing it to. What are the differences between these 2 homes? This one has one less. Let's say it has, well, it says, okay, it's got a 2-car garage. Mine doesn't. So if you were using the adjustments page, you'd be going, okay, how much is a 2-car garage worth? Let's take $20,000 off of it. I don't know about your markets. Our market is not like, if you were Grand Junction and you have this big city where you have a lot of houses that all look the same, maybe they were all built last year, you could probably make this really perfect. What I have learned about adjustments is just do not overthink it. You took a ton of time to go through the comparables and decide which ones you want in your presentation. Don't be messing with us unless there's an exact, like, okay, all my comparables are this certain way, except this one had a big lot. So I'm going to take 10,000 off because of the big lot. You can get into that, but I'm telling you, you are throwing like hours of time away when you can probably walk the customer through what your CMA ends up saying. So don't worry about that part. But what I do want you to tell you is that I don't care how busy your market is. If you are a newer agent, you have to get in the car. So when you have been in business a long time and there are listings that come up, you most likely will have a ton of buyers that will want you to go and see a certain house, right? So they're going to say, hey, Heather, this thing just came up. So you're going to get a chance to see all the active listings once you've been in business 10 years. But when you're a new agent, there is no harm in a new listing comes up and you call and you say, hey, I want to set up a preview. I know you are super busy. You probably have 40 showings today. I just want to pop in. When is a good time that I can just go and take a quick look? 5 minutes. And if it's not a great market, you say, please tell the sellers not to clean up for me. I just want to get a quick look, because it's so much better to be in front of a customer and to be able to explain that you're going through this and you're going to explain the presentation, which I think I pulled up at some place on my computer. Let's see if I can get it. Nope, I don't have it. So once you have the presentation, you're going to be able to say, like, this is why I use this home, Mr. Seller, even though it has nothing to do with what it might look on the surface like it has nothing to do with your home, but it had a very similar layout as yours. It just wasn't that fixed up, right? So if you're walking people through all these comps, you don't have to do all these adjustments, but you do have to take detailed notes. And if you are new and you haven't seen these sold comps, what you would have to do is go through when you're looking at the residential search. And just like I was showing you, well, this is a brand new home, so let's not use that one. That's a brand new home. Got a lot of brand new homes. Let's see. Actually, we don't have a lot of brand new homes. We just don't have a lot of inventory. Oh, this is one of my neighbors. This is like 3 doors away from the house. So it's a perfect comp in that way. But I'm going to look through it as a new agent and say, oh God, okay, so they have this really big thing. So these are all notes I'm taking to make it look to the seller like you have sat down and tried to do your job real well. So I'm going to stare at the photos inside and say, oh my God, look at that. But I'm going to say, like, the trim's real damaged. It looks like it could need a paint job. Like, they have some newer windows. So you just want to pay attention to what it is and try to take good notes so they know you're doing your job well. Okay. So, let's see if I can get to the place where I'm pulling up. I thought it saved. I know it saved this for me. View presentation. Okay. Maybe it's assembling the components right now. It probably, oh, is this it? Nope. While we're waiting on that, you're just going to go through one by one what these pages look like and what you like them to look like. So here's one that I didn't spend a lot of time on it. I just wanted to show you. For me, I hate, like, if it's a free program, you got to do a little bit of work. So just like in a listing presentation, you don't want to have this photo on the main, like this was from when this was my house, but this is when I bought it like years and years and years ago. It has a terrible picture. The guy I bought it from's van was like broken down in the front yard. So you're going to want to go by and take your own picture, right? Just drive by and take a picture, get Google Earth, do something to make it look a little better. This is a terrible front page. So yes, I said it doesn't matter if your presentation is fancy, but do yourself a favor and just do one. You can use Canva, you can use, I used to use Publisher, and just have a cover page or something that makes it appealing before they get into the details, which are less important. But there were certain pages that I liked and certain pages that I would choose not to use when I was doing the presentation setup, which you just get to choose what you want. Like agent resume, I'm not going to do it in Paragon. For me, down here is Paragon, right? I would do it in a really good, different kind of program, and then I would put it into my CMA, right? I'm sure you can do that in Adobe Acrobat or something like that. Maybe I want the cover letter, maybe I don't. So you just pick and choose what works for you. Everybody is different. And the beauty of putting a CMA together is that in a lot of things I teach with agents, you have the right way to do something. There is one way you should be doing a contract. Or you should be telling the customers about the title commitment, the things you don't want to forget, or else you could be in legal trouble, right? But this is one of those few places in real estate that it's art. Like, you decide how you want to go about doing this. There is not one size fits all. Everything is different. I have certain ways that I like. Let me see. Now I got to wait for it to generate again. I promise I won't go back again. I got to like open this 3 times. But the way I liked it was a certain way so that when I'm talking to them, like, I always had the subject property on the same page. So I could say, look at this picture versus what I find in yours. So let's see here. Let's get back. Some of these pages will have the property on it. So agent resume, I never filled any of that stuff out. Oh, Lord. Well, you're waiting for my Paragon one more time. Okay, so let's see what else I can. Oh, here we go. So I'll have a page. Let's see if I can do download. Now I'm saving it, actually. So this is not what it would look like. I would spend a lot more hours doing it. But you see how you like have the comparable on the same page as the one you're trying to price as the same page as the comparables on every page was how I used to do it, so that I could always talk them through everything. And you'll find in some programs they're going to have, let's say it's 27 pages. Do you need 27 pages for a CMA? No, you need like, I don't know, like 8. It doesn't have to be that big. But would you ever have more information than what they have? You can play around with these programs. They'll say, okay, do you want it to show the area? Do you want it to show the remarks? So the first time you do it, you're going to have to fool around with everything and make it what you want. Like, do I need all these remarks in here? Probably not. I do need bedrooms, baths, year built, square footage, what it sold for. Those are like the basics, right? Price per square foot, maybe. But also, let me tell you that on most programs, you can go through and take the photo you choose to use. Don't feel like you have to use the photo that just happens to pop up. Like, if I'm trying to explain that this is a really nice home that is not going to compare to the house I'm comparing it to, but I might want to show them that the interior needed a lot of work. So what would I use? I'd use an interior photo so that when I'm talking to them about it, say, see this picture. This is what I'm trying to show you. If you have this picture on it, it's not going to make much sense. So let's talk about price per square foot real quick. So in my area, I was kind of getting to this. If you're in a brand new subdivision or you're Grand Junction or a big city where they have a subdivision that has like a lot of houses that are really built by the same builder and they're all look kind of alike. One might have an extra bedroom, one might have an extra car garage. You can actually use price per square foot, but please don't get caught that you always have to compare things to price per square foot. Yes, it appears almost everywhere when you have, sorry if I'm making you dizzy. If you have like a summary page, almost all of these are going to show price per square foot on things, but as a realtor, don't get stuck on that, because I could have 4 properties in town Durango that were all built in 1958, but one of them happens to have spent a couple $100,000 on a remodel. One of them might have a 2-car garage. One of them might have a really nice lot. One of them might be able to have an ADU. They don't have an ADU, but they could have an ADU, right? So there's all different reasons. So if I just went on price per square foot, oh, let's see if it shows you here. Like, look at the difference between this. This is when it sold last time, but you can see, like, this one is a great comp in some ways, but it's 417. So as a realtor, you're going to go, oh my God, how do I make a decision? And when you're understanding that concept, that it's not all about price per square foot, you get better at being able to talk to your customer, because customers also get stuck on price per square foot. They'll say, my neighbor sold for $417 a square foot. And there's so many different variables that I don't even look at price per square foot unless I have a larger subdivision where it actually makes sense, or I want to take the final number that I kind of came up with in my head, and then I compare it to what my comps are saying. I'll say, is it kind of in the area? Well, what if I push it a little higher? What's that per square foot? I might kind of look at it once I've made my decision, but I really try not to kind of take a stand on that. So let me see if, okay, so where I'm at is the gut feeling. So let's go through, and we have all these comps that are all put together, and you decided to bracket it like I do. So you have the house you're comparing it to, and you have some houses that are worth a lot less. Let's say this one was, you know, asking and sold. This is when it sold the first time. So let's say it's kind of in the way, but you have 575 on one side, and then it goes up in price to 675 on the other side. So how do you decide what you think it's worth? So you have now spent, let's say you just took an hour, closed the door, no distractions, and you have studied these numbers, and you're like, God, you're going to start getting a gut feeling. And the more houses that you see, you'll get a better gut feeling. The more houses you see in a certain subdivision, you're going to get a better gut feeling to, I saw that house before and it was at 675. And my God, this house is just not going to make 675. That is your gut feeling, and you need to listen to it. But listen to it more as you get more information, right? So you might have it narrowed down and you're saying, I just have this feeling that if I price it like this house, that we are going to either get one offer and it might sell for somewhere around 675. And this is this market that I'm talking about. But if we do 649, I think that's the one. So if you do it around 649, we might get multiple offers that might actually push it up over 675, right? So you got to like start listening to your gut and decide what you think after reviewing all these numbers of the one that's bracketed so low that it's way better than that, right? And then the one that is a brand new house in the subdivision next door that the buyer is going to go buy if your house is priced too high, right? So there's that number where it's like, God, they like the old traditional subdivision because it's got a nice backyard. They have the big trees and all that. The trails are right next door. But my God, if I priced it at 675, they're going to go buy that brand new house for 675, right? So I'm bracketing it, and I might include that brand new house so that I can tell the seller, this is what the brand new house in the subdivision looks like. You don't want to push the buyer over to that. Does that all make sense so far? Okay, hold on. Oh, okay. And so you got all this together. Let's say you did it, you decided not to do any adjustments. The way I did is I never put the price that I thought in this. I didn't want to say, seller, I think you should list it 675, because whatever you put in that report, that is the only number they look at. That's it. They just sit there and stare at it. And at least in my MLS program, they're going to have things like, this is a beautiful page because it'll show, look, they priced it a little too high and it didn't sell for the amount, but this person priced it about right and it sold for the exact amount. Look, this person priced their house lower than it was worth and it pushed, or maybe right at the right market value, and it pushed it up. So this is a good like list to sale price kind of thing, what the average days on the market are. And then here is where it'll say subject property. So if you fill in a price on your CMA for what you think that house is worth, it enters every graph that you do. I used to use 0. I just used to write TBD if it fit, because I wanted to talk to the seller about that. It's their decision what they think the house is worth. I wanted to give them a bracket. I'd say 650 on the low side, 670 on the high side. Do not push it over 670. It's not going to go that high, right? So I'm giving them a range and it's their choice. How quick do you want to move? How do you want to price it at the exact right price that we're going to nail it? And we're going to get all these offers that are way above the asking price if you do it just right. It's so important to get it just right. So what you're going to do when you're explaining this, here's the beauty of it. You're not going to, okay, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can do it over Zoom because they live in the East Coast, or it's going to be something that you're doing in person. Do not send it to them before you're meeting with them. This is just like, there's a few things in real estate, like a bad offer that you don't want to just send to them and have them say, oh my God, I'm not taking this offer. And then they get so stinking mad about it. When it ends up being a perfect offer, it's just the price. Maybe you can counter the price, right? But the seller gets all worked up because you sent it to them before you were there to counsel with them, right? It's the same with a CMA. So if I was in person, I want to meet with them. And if it's in Zoom, I want to send it to them by email as we're on the Zoom. So they're not sitting there and going, what, is this agent know what they're doing? Why would they have put, so get past this. Why would they have put this first comparable? That house was down the street. That thing was falling down. My realtor doesn't know what they're doing. I think we made a bad decision, right? So that's why you don't want to, you want to talk them through that. So when you are on the phone and you're telling them about the comparables, you want to explain that to them. You're telling your story and you're saying, okay, we're going to see some houses that are not as good as yours. And we're going to see some houses that I think on the market would sell for more than yours because there are certain features that yours doesn't have. So not that you don't ever want to say that they're nicer than yours. So what you're going to do is say, look, so let me tell you about this first house. I went in there 3 months ago. It sold. It needed so much work. The thing smelled terrible, but it's a lot like yours before it was fixed up. So could we agree that we're going to get a better price on the market than this one? And they're going to say yes. So then you move on. So then let's talk about this one. This one, you walk through all the comps. Then you're going to say this one had some really gorgeous interior. They put a lot of money into that inside. Look at what they did to the exterior. They had a bigger lot. Can we agree? They have a 3-car garage. Can we agree that your house would not be able to obtain the same amount on the market?
Yeah, the baling company.
Yeah.
Sure.
Does that make sense? So you're talking them through the entire thing, and you want them to agree with you so that the time you get to the pricing, they agree with you. You say, okay, so my gut, with all of the time that I've been in real estate, and I threw the number around with a couple people in the office. Actually, you don't want to do that in this market because you want to protect the seller from people finding out about it before it gets on the market. But if you can get help from somebody to sit down and say, what do you think? I came up with this price. Do you think it's about right? So that when you go into the presentation, you can tell that seller, look, my gut is telling me we have to price it right here. And if we go too high, what's going to happen is you're going to get a ton of showings, but you might just get one offer. Whereas if we price it right in this market, we might be able to get multiple offers, and it's going to push that price higher than it would ever appraise. Okay. So if you're giving bad news, always say it's the market. So the market's really telling us, you're not telling them. You don't want to give bad news and say, well, I'm telling you, your house isn't worth 675. You want to say the market's kind of telling us that 675 is probably too high. So you need to be the expert. That's it. You need to be the expert. You need to know these. And if you don't know the comps, you can always call the listing agent. Let's say you have a comp and God, you'd like to know more about what that interior was. It was a for sale by owner that a realtor in a different office sold, and they only put one photo in the MLS. And you're like, God, it just doesn't match up with all the other properties. I wonder what the interior looked like. Just call the agent and say, hey, I'm so sorry to bother you. Could you just tell me, I'm trying to price a house and I'm wondering what was going on inside that Forest Avenue home? Why did it price so high? And they'll tell you. So then when you're talking to the seller, you can say, so I called the agent that sold this house, and what they told me is the reason it went so high was because X. They had a car included, or I don't know. They'll tell you what it was. Hold on. Yeah, and I think that's about it. It's a pretty basic thing. If I needed to, if you're doing this online, I would suggest to have, like, if your presentation is online, when you're meeting with the people, I would suggest having a different screen up with your MLS so that you can actually show them the photos of the comp. So for example, see if I can get to it. No, I can't while I'm on Zoom. I think it's one of these, but anyway, let's see if I can find it. Do I have it up? Or maybe I'm in it. Oh yeah, I'm in it. So you might want to have that residential search pulled up so you can say, okay, let me show you the inside of this house. So because there's going to be things you can't explain. And what was that photo that I showed you on this one, the bad, like, this is the condition of the house, like it is falling apart. So you're just trying to give them as much information when you're meeting with them. But questions? Anything about that? I'm going to teach you a whole class about how to do really tough CMAs. So let's talk about like the ones that don't match up at all. They have a river that runs through them, or there's it's a development property, or like how to walk through these really tough ones, and some criteria that you can use to really get through your MLS and try to get things, but try to get comps. But I think that the thing I want to put as like a last words to you would be, don't get lost in the details, but do take a ton of time. And it generally took me, even as an established agent who's done this for years and years, I couldn't imagine taking less than 45 minutes to do my job of like really deciding on that price. And sometimes it took a lot more. And even with the agents in my office that have been in real estate 20 years and they're doing comps in this market, they still come out of that hour where they've really been thinking about it with not knowing. You don't know, like you think you have it nailed. And you're only going to know when you put it on the market and what people say. So I definitely want to impart, do your job, take a ton of notes, know the market as well as you can, and go with it. Go with your gut and try to nail the price, but not spend hours and hours making it look pretty. The things that you're supposed to take a ton of time making it look pretty are your listing presentation, your seller's packets, your the way your car looks and the way you pull up in the driveway, all those kind of professional kind of things. But this is something that's more about the data. So find something that works for you, and don't spend a ton of money doing it either, because it's more about the information that goes into it and the fact that you can get around the system than it is anything else. That all makes sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any questions?